Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the new and improved face of heavy metal music theory. What we're going to be doing is running through the entire song of Master of Puppets, broken down section by section. I will play the section, then I will discuss the section, then I will play the next section, and then I will break down that section. All the way through the song, the entire thing. Who's ready? You ready? Here we go. All right, now that introduction to Master of Puppets by Metallica, it's one of the most iconic introductions to any metal song ever. And basically what we have here, is a section in E minor, right? But more importantly than just saying it's in E minor, we have to bring the fact to the forefront here that we're dealing with basically the entire chromatic scale descending with the E pedal note in between. So what I mean by that is the chromatic scale being every single note on the guitar. We're doing all those. All right, so we're literally playing every note within the chromatic scale, and what makes it really cool is you have those alternating pedal E notes in between, the chugs, right? That's what gives it its grounding in E. So that's what we have for the introduction. Alright, so we're coming out of the pre-verse riff. That's what you guys just heard. And this section, again, still loosely rooted in E, because we have that E that comes in very often. This section this personifies what heavy metal is, because heavy metal isn't about full chords. It's not about major verse minor necessarily. It's not even about chord progressions in the traditional sense. This is all about single notes, intervallic relationships between those notes, and a whole lot of rhythm, right? So this pre-verse riff goes, we're going E, F, B, E, F, C, E, F, C sharp. All right, and then we're going to descend back and then end on that B twice. So what's essentially going on here is you have the root E up to the minor second. That gives it kind of a Phrygian vibe, that flat 2. And then we're going up to 5-2, which there's your tritone, all right, tritone number 1 for the Metallica song. And then we go up chromatically. Whoop. So we're dealing with a root, a flat 2 for the Phrygian vibe. Excuse me. All right, so we go from the E to the F for a flat 2 Phrygian vibe, and then we go up a tritone, which is very heavy metal, right? And then it's right back to the open root and the flat 2, and then we're going to go up chromatically from that tritone. So our higher notes are going in chromatic ascension, okay? So the breakdown of this is you have the root in E, the flat 2, and that's like your opening theme to this, and then you go up the tritone, repeat the beginning, go up another half step, repeat the beginning, go up another half step, and then you're going to come back down. All right, at the end of that phrase, you have these little power chords here. All right, you have a G to an F sharp to an E, which is just a 3-2-1 in the key of E minor. So that kind of cements that section as being in the key of E minor. Let's see what comes next, shall we? Alright guys, so what you just heard was the verse. I believe it was verse 2. And this part's really cool. What we do is we start off on E, as usual. And then we do a G to an A to a B flat. Right? So your E is your 1, your G is your 3, your A is your 4, and then your B flat is your tritone, right? Can't have Metallica without the tritone. That section basically repeats a few times, and then it modulates up to F sharp, which technically F sharp is in the scale, so you're going up to the second degree of the scale, and you're going to repeat the process. You're basically transposing what you've done from E and playing it from F sharp. So then you have the F sharp, the A, the B, and the C, which would be the second, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth of the key of E, all right? So taking the progression, for lack of a better description, playing it from E, and then moving it up a full step, still in the scale, and then obviously adjusting those notes, transposing, and repeating the same thing, giving it a fresh feel and some movement, all right? Let's see what else we got. Alright guys, so what you just heard was the chorus, the part where James goes master. So we have master, master, alright? So we have the E to the F. So again, we have that flat 2 relationship, that Phrygian feel. And then we go into E, F sharp, G. So we have a 1, 2, 3 in E minor. Then we throw in a C to a B to an A. So that's a 6, 5, 4. In E minor, and then we're going to go up to D, which is the 7, to the C, to the B, which is the 6, 5, and then the E, to the F sharp, to the G, which is the 1, 2, 3, and then 1, flat 2. Alright, so this section's really cool as well. Again, it's the rhythms that give it the personality. Sticking with the root, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, pretty much every single note in the E minor scale in power chord form for this section. But what's really cool is that flat 2, master, master, right there. Phrygian vibe, man. This is what makes the song so killer. All right, let's see what comes next. Alright guys, so we're taking a look at the part you just heard, the pre-chorus. And again, rooted in E minor, we have the E to a D to an E. And then we have a little, just more notes of your E minor scale. Then we're going to go to the B chord. which is the 5 chord. And then we're going to move up. And we're going to do C, E flat, and B, which essentially kind of outlines a C chord, but then we're back to the 5 on the B. So essentially the pre-chorus, rooted in E with an E chord, a D chord, a B chord, and a C chord. And a whole lot of cool rhythms. Let's take a look. We'll see what comes next. Alright guys, so there you had the interlude section, which is where Kirk Hammett essentially goes up above the octave and outlines a couple chords in true Kirk Hammett fashion. This is a very unique section to the song. It breaks free of the heaviness and it injects melody and soul into the progression. So looking very briefly at the notes, we're basically doing a 3-chord progression here. We're starting phrase 1 on E, and that's the part where we're going. Alright, so that is basically an E, B, G, A, and F sharp that outlines most of the notes of the E minor scale, but starting on E, so I would consider that like an E chord progression or E chord phrase. And then the next part goes down to D. Essentially keeping with the same phrase. In fact, he's doing the same intervals, but just down 1 scale degree. Or in this case, we're in E minor, so E minor is the 1, D is the 7. But typical minor progression to go from the 1 to the 7. So we're going, the first phrase is E for the first note, D for the second phrase. So E to D. The second note in either phrase goes B to A. The third note goes G to F sharp. The fourth note goes A to G. And the fifth note goes F sharp to E. So I want you to notice those intervals are the same. We're just dropping everything down by a scale degree, which is why that section works so well, because it creates the thematic melody, right? The theme is... That's the theme, the rhythmic and melodic theme, and it's just moving it down the scale. And it does that for the starting note of E, D, and of course C. And that would be a 1, 7, 6 in the key of E minor, which is standard for progressions such as this. Really cool section by Kirk Hammett. And I'm going to give you a little disclaimer, guys. I'm not a great soloist. I've never played. We have a James Hetfield solo coming up after the interlude. I'll probably work on it, but I'm not going to perform it for this video. Not going to do it justice. But just know that there is a solo in there. I'm sure you know if you're watching this. But we're going to move on to the next section. I'll see you there. Alright guys, what you just heard there was the bridge. Alright, another very unique section to the song. Not very heavy at all. Melodic arpeggiations. Very emotional, a lot of movement. I think that's enough descriptions for that. So the bridge starts on an E minor. Alright, so we're establishing the E minor chord as the 1. The second part we do basically an outline of a D arpeggio. You have the D, the A, the D, the A, the E, as a segue to the F sharp, which is the third, and then down to the D and the A. Then we have a segue note here. We have the G, which is going to line us up as a 5-to-1 resolution back to C, which is the 6th chord in E minor. And then we have a series of notes outlining like a C or a C add 9 kind of vibe. So another example of reusing the signature 1-7-6 chord progression in the key of E minor, which is what we're dealing with in this song. And again, it does it from E minor, D, and C. Very cool section. Let's see what we got next. All right, let's go. Let's go.